You posted an Instagram story. And at the very bottom, I saw this. It writes, very small, I'm about to make roasting men my whole personality. JK, parentheses, JK, it already was. Natasha, I'm a little disappointed.
You didn't like it?
I'm waiting for more of the roasting.
There wasn't much to roast.
Really? There wasn't?
It's not like...
Close into the mic.
Like roasting in terms of like banter, but I feel like where we started, it wasn't banter. It was just crossing a line, so I wasn't going to engage.
Wait, what was the line crossing?
Earlier. We don't need to revisit it.
What?
We've gotten better as time has gone on.
What line was crossed?
I said it multiple times. I'm not going to revisit it.
You
like you
you're
said
stonewalling, bro.
Like you
You're
said that you
stonewalling, bro.
wouldn't appreciate if somebody talked bad about your father, but you made a comment about my mother, and that was it for me. You did.
What did I say?
I'm not going to repeat it. It was rude.
I didn't insult your mother.
You did.
How did I do it?
I'm not going to repeat it. I just said that, which is fine. We moved past it.
You made the claim.
Do you think you crossed a boundary that she set multiple times of wanting to end the conversation?
5 times specifically.
Hold on. So I come on a podcast and where there's going to be an expectation that you're going to have conversations like...
Right, but it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all, everything's on the table.
It's not me being the host of the podcast and continuing a conversation. Like if every girl here was like, you could literally hijack my podcast and just say, I don't want to talk about that, to every single thing. Would it be crossing a boundary if I was like, no, fuck you. You came on this podcast. I want to talk about this. Is that crossing a boundary?
There was an instance where you crossed...
allowed to say we want to change the subject?
Jill.
How is it a boundary? It's not...
You crossed a boundary with Jill, too. She said she didn't want to talk about body count and things like that with her sexual past multiple times.
Hold on. I think exploring the reasons why isn't crossing a boundary.
Right, but it is once you get to a certain point where she says she's uncomfortable a couple times and has made it
shifting
clear
the question... Hold on. So trying to ask like a different question that's perhaps walked back a little bit to try to like actually flesh out the conversation at hand is not crossing a boundary.
I guess our consideration of boundaries is different. If she explicitly said something...
Well, I have a boundary that I don't like people...
Okay, but are you going to let me finish or are you going to let me answer?
Go ahead.
She expressed I'm sorry to use you, but this is just my opinion from the outside, is that she had said multiple times something specific bothered her and you kept asking her about it in the same way that when I said something specifically bothered me. And we could talk about all the things leading up to it, but there was a point where I said, this bothers me and this is my boundary. And you then asked me 5 more times about it. That's a boundary. That's just people have boundaries. You might disagree with my boundary, but it doesn't mean that it's not my boundary.
I have a boundary about people stonewalling on my podcast. You crossed my boundary multiple times. So now do I have the right to feel aggrieved because you crossed one of my boundaries?
Yeah, of course.
Who's to say... if I'm asking a question, if I'm on a podcast and I'm asking a question, my boundary is that I want people to like... in good faith engage in the conversation and not stonewall. That's my boundary. So are you aggrieving me or am I aggrieving you?
Which I did for the rest of the time, but I said explicitly one thing was a boundary and I said it explicitly in the moment and you still pushed it. You never once told me something bothered you and was your boundary or I would have stopped.
We were, if I recall, we were having a discussion about, you just literally stonewalled because when it came to, I think it was the conversation about World War II.
No, that
and
you know
I literally checkmated you and I was like, you said, and then you fucking gaslit and said, oh, I didn't say that. You literally said when we were talking about male grievances, you said, we brought up World War I, World War II. And then you said, oh, but that was a long time ago, ergo, it doesn't matter. And then I was like, okay, well then slavery happened a long time ago. Does it not matter? And then you knew I checkmated you. And then you created this boundary to try to be evasive and not admit that you made it.
What I was talking about. The thing with World War I, that was the beginning of my sentence, like I said, and the rest was what I was saying. But I wasn't even talking about that instance. I was talking about the first instance. That I didn't say like, this is a boundary and you've hurt me, you've upset me, you've whatever. That was from the first conversation. And then you still kept pushing. I didn't care about the trench foot thing.
But it's not,
disagreed.
Okay, if we're having a conversation about, I think it all stemmed from possibly child support. We were talking about child support. and then like I'm trying to engage you in thoughts and ideas, and then and you gave an anecdotal, because I was talking in generalities, you immediately go to a personal anecdote. So when I try to like intellectually investigate your worldview and your personal anecdote, if you don't give me enough space to actually investigate it, then it just shuts down the entire conversation. You brought it up. I was trying to suss out the degree, like the nature of the conversation. I was trying to suss out the nature of your anecdote. And you're just like, well, I'm not going to give you like certain details. It's like, well, okay, then I don't have a full comprehensive understanding of your anecdotal experience.
I agree. And I had said that that was a boundary once we got deeper into that conversation. Because
what did I do?
I just said, because you had said something that was insulting about my mother. So at that point, I was done with the conversation. And then you then asked me 5 more times.
I did not ask you 5 times.
Okay.
I maybe asked you different questions.
You pushed it 5 different times, asking me about
counted?
the child support thing. And I had explicitly...
You brought up the anecdote.
Okay. Right, but I explicitly said it's a boundary. So if I'm
Then why did you bring it up? I'm sorry. You brought it up.
I had said there were 3 of us at this table that had a child support issue that negated what you said. So I said, our personal experience does not reflect your opinion, which is fine. That's our experience. But then you were asking the personal comment about it. So I explained from there. But there is always a boundary with somebody about something that bothers them. So of course we could talk up until that point. But when I'm expressly telling you something bothers me and you're negating that because you don't agree with it, that doesn't mean it doesn't bother me. And that doesn't mean that it's not my boundary just because you don't respect it.
I would love to see the clip back, because while to be charitable, I was investigating your worldview and I was asking you different questions related to your anecdote. However, I think you're being disingenuous to say that I asked you the same exact question 5 times. Hold on. I mean, I'll take your word for it. Then your father was a sick individual if he was physically violent with a baby.
And if that is the case, if there is like actually stone cold evidence for it, then there should not be any custody.
Yeah,
so I don't know why.
Why would he want visitation?
I don't know why your mom would even.
I would be
allow.
like, if my.
That's why my mom had said that she wanted me to know he existed, but she didn't want it to be in a situation where I was ever alone with him, that I could have monitored visitations with an agency.
Was there a police report?
Yeah. There's
okay. Was he arrested? Was there a prosecution?
Yes, there was a prosecution.
Okay. All right then. Okay. Good talk. That got. You're trying to paint it like it was a super clear cut. Like I asked you a question and then you made it as abundantly clear as possible that I don't want to talk about this. This is a boundary. What?
You did ask
multiple times. We all saw it. I mean, we all were.
But I didn't ask the same question.
I never said my verbatim was not. You asked me the same question on repeat. I said you pushed the issue several times
because I'm exploring your worldview.
I get that's your job. I get you're trying to get a reaction. I get you're trying to get
I'm not trying to get a reaction.
Information, but if I'm explicitly telling you a boundary, just like anything in life, if someone is expressly telling you something bothers them, you don't get to determine it doesn't. That's me. That bothers me. If you told me talking about trench foot really bothered you, I would have stopped. We were having a conversation.
But now you're being completely disingenuous.
I'm not.
You're literally, yes, you're trying to say it's just about the trench foot, though. We were talking broadly about World War I and World War II.
We actually were talking about abortion, and then it kind of got over there. But yes.
Well, that's where it went.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I'm saying it's not comparable.
When I tested your logic, you just shut down and you stonewalled.
No, okay. I'm saying once you hit a nerve and really said something that upset me about my mother, at that point, I was not wanting to engage. I thought it was disrespectful. I said it was a boundary and you crossed it. So for a bit there, I was upset because I thought it was disrespectful. So I took a back seat. It just seemed argumentative and hyper-focused on me at that point. And then we got past it and we've had a pleasant conversation and disagreements and agreements throughout. But I'm saying what you said about my mother was a hard pass for me. Just like you said, if somebody said something to your dad or hurt your dad, it would be a hard pass for you. That's a boundary. Everybody has different boundaries. You don't have to agree with it. That was mine, and I made it clear.
Yeah, except I didn't say anything about your mother. I was asking,
did.
no, I was asking clarifying questions. Asking a question isn't the same as, it's not the same as saying your mother is X. If I'm asking you a clarifying question about the scenarios surrounding that incident, that's not saying something about your mother.
You did, though.
Can somebody, I don't know, what did I say?
From the conversation, from what I remember, we were having this conversation about this situation that you were in, and he was asking clarifying questions, saying, and then he said that there are cases out there where the women have said X and Y to the courts in order to get custody of the child, but he never actually said that your mother did that. But he said we'll never know. I think that's how it ended.
And I
He
said,
"We'll
which
never
is
know."
implying that she did. And then he kept going with it. And so at that point, I'm not going to engage because that was what was implied, and I don't respect that. You don't have to agree. That's just my
Okay, how did
opinion.
I cross your boundary?
I don't necessarily think you did. I think we kind of got to the point where it was all the information was needed and we didn't need to go any further with that. I don't think that. I think I asked you maybe once or twice, but I don't feel like it was not respected.
Okay, I mean, look, I'm the host of the podcast. It's my job to get to the bottom of this stuff when it comes to dating, etc. These conversations. Sometimes we're having heated exchanges. Sometimes we're talking about serious subjects matter. It's kind of my job as the host to investigate those sorts of things. I mean, it is what it is, but whatever.
I wasn't upset.
Okay, that's cool. So